Surprise guest on this week's episode of Implicit Bias. I'm your host, Kevon Bordelon, and he is the man who makes your liver hurt. Kenny Michael, Big Whiskey, has shown up this week in the TSPL. I don't know how he found the Mr. Lester's TSPL down somewhere in downtown Lafayette, but he found it, and when he does, he always shows up with liquor. What you got, Renee?
I think he just smells the whiskey.
It could be.
I mean, knowing Kenny, he just goes and he smells the whiskey. And I think he's got a tracker on your truck.
No, that's probably the case,
the
too.
The tracker is in Caleb's beard.
Would he be like Old Red, the bloodhound that smelled him out? No? Yeah.
That's old reliable.
There you go.
No, that was his grandpappy.
He is Kenny Michael. He is the state representative for Deutsche Family Wine and Spirits, which means that he handles all Redemption, all Josh, all Bib and Tucker, all this stuff, and he is family. He just is. I've known Kenny for longer than he cares to recognize. We've been friends for a very, very, very long time, and it just so happens that he is also known as the Liquor Fairy, because when he shows up, liquor, poof, magically appears. And that's what happened when he showed up at the Mr. Lester's TSPL this week. Kenny, tell us about what we got in the glass for this one, because this Redemption is a little different.
It is. So this is our once-a-year release, although I will say that it's been a few years since our last release because we have changed bottles. This is Redemption Surly, and if you look at it, it's spelled L-E-E, whereas in wine, and that's just a nod to the Southern heritage of whiskey. And there is a winemaking technique that's made famous by the French called Surly aging, and that is the lees, where they will let the wine age on the lees, L-E-E-S, and that is the dead yeast cells. And what that does is that basically brings an elegant mouthfeel, sort of a creamier mouthfeel to the wine. And it's a way to change the expression. Yes, I said creamy mouthfeel. And the French have made this a very common practice, and it is done a lot in wine. And there's some American winemakers that do it as well, but it has never, ever been done in the whiskey world before. So this is a one of a kind. It's the first of its kind. And what they do is they take the back set, which is the lees, the dead yeast cells, and they actually age this for the entirety of its aging, the 4-year aging, with the lees in the barrel. And they will roll the barrel every so often to have the lees kind of fall into to the liquid, and it holds in suspension for a while as it settles down to the bottom again before they roll it again. And it just makes a very elegant expression of a different kind of whiskey than we're used to. And then, of course, they do filter it when they bottle it. But it is aged for the entirety of its aging, barrel aging, on the lees, which is a very unique process. And it's all laid out on the bottle, which the bottle is beautiful. I love it. It's a painted bottle. They put all that information on there. It is our standard Redemption Rye mash bill, 95.5 rye. And that is an MGP product. We've never hidden that, and we love MGP. They make a great product. And they proof it from 92, where our normal rye is, to 99. So coming in at 99 proof, aged right at 4 years, right around 4 years average age. Could be a little bit more, could be a little bit less, but typical average age about 4 years.
This is a fantastic Christmas gift. If you've got somebody out there who is a bourbon whiskey drinker, they're looking for something unique that you're not going to find all the time, that is truly off the beaten path. Number one, the liquid that's in the bottle is delicious. It is fantastic. The bottle is fantastic presentation.
I don't know, man. Like, I think you'll make it too wordy. Like, there's a lot on that bottle. I can see like paddles and barrels, and like the only thing you're missing is the hand and the names of the name of the guy who turns them.
It's on the back.
Yeah. It's beautiful though.
Yeah, it's a beautiful bottle. It's a beautiful presentation. And I'm curious as to what we think of it here in the TSPL. Caleb,
this is a blue.
You're on your second, I believe, of this.
This is my second of this one. This is a blue. This is just wonderful. It's not floral, but it's got like a flowery hint to it. It's very, very soft on the palate. I love the proof on this. I think at a higher proof, it wouldn't be what it is.
So you're saying it's flowery. So when you have finished the bottle, you have deflowered it?
Okay.
I'm asking. I'm asking. It's a legitimate question. People want to know.
I think that's the right term. Yeah. And this thing is just like, it hits on all cylinders. It's very, very drinkable. It's not overly aggressive. And the flavor profile that you get out of it. And I don't want to say creamy mouthfeel, but man, that's the best. That's the best way to say it. It really is.
Yeah, it is. It really, it comes off as thicker, more viscous. It's almost more buttery. It's almost like a heavy cream type feel.
Yep.
It is fantastic. Renee?
Yeah, I like this one a lot. I mean, I would give it a blue also. And one of the things I was talking to Kenny about, that you get to taste a slight yeasty taste to it. It's like when I used to brew my own beer in that, and we would have yeast. We would filter some of it, but you'd always wind up with some yeast in it, and you get that slight yeasty taste. I think that's what that flowery feel that you're coming. That's what that is, and it tastes great. It's a great whiskey.
And here's the really funny part. So we don't want to go too deep into this because there are some things we can and some things we can't talk about, but pretty matters is the theme of this week's show. That bottle is it's straight up pretty.
It is.
And what's beautiful about it is that someone else made him make it this pretty. So for those who don't follow industry trade, redemption bottles have changed in the last 2 years, as you said, Kenny. One of the reasons they changed is because someone, we're not going to mention any names, claimed that the bottles were too similar to their bottle. And
you mean it had a bottom and a top and a middle?
Pretty much, yeah.
And a cork.
And a cork.
You can file suit for anything and everything.
Isn't that the truth? Well, long story short, an executive decision was made and Redemption went the high road and said, you know what, look, we're going to take what's inside the bottle. We're going to show you how pretty it is on the outside. And that matters. I mean, how much does presentation matter when you go to buy a bottle of whiskey? Anybody?
I mean, presentation matters for everything. Otherwise, you wouldn't dress up for your wedding.
Well, that, and you go into the whiskey aisle, my God, with thousands of bottles to choose from, you need something that just stands out to you.
And Kenny, I'm going to ask you because I know you've got the numbers. My guess is with the bottle change, you've probably seen a little bump because that's typically what happens when you go through some of those branding changes, and it's hard to gauge.
Yeah, I mean, I will say this. We are trending back to a very positive position. Having to change bottles left us without product in the market for about 4 months. So we did take a dip from that. But it's the regard for the brand was there. And when we were back on the shelves, people started buying again. And we're almost back to the level where we were before, and we are trending to continue upward.
What I really love about what Redemption does is they take those bottles that would be unobtainium if there was another label on it. I mean, let's all face it. If there was one of maybe 4 or 5 distilleries that everybody knows, the big 4 or 5 names, and they said, oh, we came out with a Surly, where would they price this? They would price that at $200, $250 a bottle, more than likely, because they would get it on a limited release. Instead, what you see is a company like Deutsch Family that has Redemption, where they put out their rum cask finish was fantastic, right? Their cognac cask finish is delicious. They do the things that you would think higher priced labels typically do, but they execute it just as well, and they just make it available to everybody, and that's what we love.
Well, and they're willing to roll the dice, because they were the first to bring this to market. It was something different. And look, the first time I had this, Kenny brought some. And I was like, Surly? Like, what is Surly? And he went into it and described. And I was like, okay. And it didn't stick. But the bottle's pretty and it drinks really good. Yeah. So that's why I'll buy another one,
Yeah, that plane just went right over, huh?
It was almost 4 years ago, by the way.
Yeah, it was.
It was 4 years ago?
It was at least 3 years ago that we had the first iteration, batch 1 of Surly.
I thought it was about a year to a year and a half, maybe 2 years that you brought it. But I mean, still, I know it had been a while since you brought that first iteration.
We were not going to release this again until we got into our permanent bottle scenario. But we're still a year and a half out from settling on that. So we decided not to wait any longer because this is technically our interim bottle.
Wow.
Yeah.
So then this one might be collectible to people who collect.
The old one is now collectible, and this one may become collectible.
I don't see how people can have a bottle that sits somewhere unopened like that, though.
This is a difficult one to let sit because if you know the liquid that's inside the bottle, man, you don't want to pass this up. It is truly unique as far as
the only
bourbons
person
and
that I
whiskeys
know
go.
that would pass this up is Walker. That's the only one.
Yeah, especially when he's puking the next morning.
Yeah.
as you're recording a show and he's having to get up and run to the bathroom to make sure that he doesn't puke on the mixing board. I'm
Hasn't
just
happened
saying.
yet, Walker. I got you. You're good.
You know, if you hear that sound, it sounds like a cat licking itself in the background. That's Walker licking his wounds. So,
And why do the cats want to do that at like 3:30 a.m.?
oh man, like my wife's dog
Without
does
fail.
that crap, and it'll sit at the foot of the bed. Next thing you know, poop is on the ground. Just lessons learned.
I figured that Walker was doing that at 3:30 in the morning because that's when he finished that cigar and had to be sent home. Happy birthday, Walker. Yeah, we love it. All right. Kenny, any parting thoughts on this Redemption Sir Lee?
It is a limited time release. It comes out once a year. It is in the market right now. You get it while you can because we did not get a ton of cases in Louisiana. I think we got 17 total 6-packs for the whole state.
Oh,
When they are gone, they are gone. So, you know, you can find it locally at some of your favorite places, including New News. They definitely have a 6-pack of that that they ordered last week. So they may or may not be there still. And then some of the other bigger retailers that I won't name.
yeah. And first of all, the fact that the entire state only got 17 6-packs. I mean, let's do some real quick math. That's 102 bottles.
Yeah.
That is not a lot of whiskey to go around the state of Louisiana when you consider how we drink whiskey in the state of Louisiana. It just isn't.
No, it's how we drink whiskey here.
Well, this is also true. But this is the other big thing. So if you're listening on the radio and you want some of this and you miss it because you don't download Implicit Bias on podcast or find us on our socials, on X, on Facebook, on YouTube, guess what? That's a great reason to go out and make sure you subscribe because our subscribers got this episode easily 24 hours before you did, if not a full 48 before this hits terrestrial radio. So somebody got a head start on everybody else to making sure that they could find this Redemption Sir Lee. Walker is managing to somehow raise a finger as he lays on the floor in the corner. We're going to go ahead, take a break. We're going to come back. Hopefully Walker will have thrown up. He'll feel better. And we'll bring you the final segment of hour 1 of this week's episode of Implicit Bias.